Hey, everybody, this is Brett Ingram, and this is the optYOUmize podcast, the show that helps entrepreneurs build their dream business and dream life. Today, we're talking with Adam Torres, co founder of Mission Matters, a media branding and book publishing agency, and host of the Mission Matters series of shows, ranked in the top 2.5% of podcasts. I'm super excited because I think that everybody has a story or a message worth sharing, and publishing and podcasting are awesome ways to do it. So with that, welcome, Adam, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey, Brett, man, I'm excited to work with you today and to get to know more about you, your journey, and also just to have some fun, man. optYOUmize, let's do it.
I feel the same way. I saw your background. I was excited. I'm like, hey, this is a kindred spirit. I know we see a lot alike on a lot of things. So I'm curious. I have a lot of questions that I want to ask you, but can we start off with your personal story? What is your background, and how
Sure.
did you actually start your career?
Yeah. So first thing I like to tell people is the reason why I come on these shows and I guest and I like coming on shows is because I want to. And so what you just now said, everybody has a story to share. My aim and my goal is through sharing my story, I hope to inspire others to know that the person they're listening to or watching, if you're online, started out as the worst podcaster, the worst content creator in history. And I know you're not supposed to say that, right? Like you're supposed to be like, oh, I'm good and I'm professional and blah, blah, blah. No. Just to let you know, my first show was so bad that I didn't even use my name. And then some of those episodes are taken down. I had none of the stuff I'm doing now comes naturally, but I will answer your question. But I take it with a grain of salt if you're listening to this. If you think I have any polish, if you think that if you're like, this guy sucks, then okay, you're fine. Then then you're like, then disregard everything I said. Okay. But my background was finance. I was in that business almost 14 years and making the transition into media full time. I've been here now for 9 years. And it wasn't the plan, wasn't the goal. I was fine in my corporate career. I was fine as an entrepreneur and having my own firm. Really, I just wasn't one of those Elon Musk type of personalities. I could do one thing really well. I'm just not, I got, in terms of that space, other than, God, family, like the one thing outside of God and family, we'll say is my work. And for that, like I can only do one thing. So I had to make a decision. I didn't have to, but I chose to make a decision of am I going to stick with one versus the other. I chose this just because I felt it was my calling. Like I was being pulled to it. I had maybe some uncommon success in the beginning that probably shouldn't happen. And it was just a little weird to me, but it was also leading to so much growth that I ultimately decided, hey, I could go back to finance. I can get my licenses. I have my 7, my 6, my 63, my insurance, like you name it, 60. I probably forgot how many 60, 65. I mean, all the different licenses, but I could always go back and do this. But could I ride this wave of really giving and spreading love? I just felt like I was going in the right direction. So and that doesn't mean it was a linear path. I mean, 9 years later, maybe somebody cares, maybe they don't, I don't know, but 9 years later, we're doing okay, and very blessed to think that anybody cares or wants to listen. So that's the short of it.
That's awesome. So what gave you your first exposure to it? So obviously you came to a point where you recognize there's this other thing. I could go into media, I could do, publishing, I
No,
could do
no,
podcasting.
that's what you would think. What came to it was like when I talk to God, I like to say puts me kind of like in the headlock, maybe gives me a noogie, maybe a little, prod here and there. No, none of that. Every time somebody brings a new opportunity, wants me to do something new, I say no. And I'm like, like even my first book. So it started with my first book when I didn't want to do that. At that time I was in finance. I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, I will admit, because I was raised in that atmosphere. I started at my first firm when I was 16, working at Raymond James and Associates in their IRA department. So I was only around like really buttoned up finance guys for most of my career. So when it came to doing my first book, I was like, why am I going to waste my time on a $5 product? Broke people write books. Who cares about this? This is stupid. But my mentor said, you got to do a book because you have a company and a firm and this is important. So I did it, and I had some uncommon success and was on speaking tours as far away as China. These random people on LinkedIn found me, and then these other people and these other things. And I'm like on these speaking tours doing this stuff. So that's where I'm like, God just does it. He's like you got to do it. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. My first podcast show, I didn't want to do a podcast. Are you kidding me? I said, podcasting is stupid. First I said that. Then I said, wait, what is podcasting? I didn't even know what it was. The other co-founder, Shirag, he's like, well, we should be doing one, and and one of us is going to be the host. And do you want me doing my day-to-day function, or I was like, no, I'll do it. No, you keep doing what he's the deal maker. He's the deal maker. He's the one that's out there hustling, and he has a very unique skill set to be able to bring in partnerships. And he has a media background too. So I wasn't flying at this blind. Like, he knew what he was doing. I didn't. Now, so I'm answering your question from my shoes. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do no stupid podcast. What is that? I don't listen to those. What do you want me to start asking people questions? What is that about? Like, so no. But fast forward, it was a bunch of me saying no, and like God and like the universe, and just kind of that pull. And now we've published over 400 authors, including Barry Sanders 2 years ago, or I think it's going on 2 years now, but his Bye Bye Barry documentary on Amazon that was based off of his autobiography that my company published.
Nice.
And we've published over 400 authors now, and a best-selling business leader book series. And even that series, I didn't want to do it. I'm like, I'm not doing an anthology series. Why am I going to bring together all these entrepreneurs and have them contribute a chapter? That's silly. Why am I going to do that? And then I'm like, okay, we did it. And then it goes. And then on the podcast side, we've launched now approaching, or it might have crossed now as of this week, over 250 shows. And even
Nice.
doing that, I was like, why are we going to do shows for other people? The pandemic came and people started asking us, could we help? And we had some bench time because my travel schedule wasn't what it was in the past. And I was no longer doing in-person appearances. I was pretty much self-quarantined by choice because I didn't want to take that risk. Rightfully or wrongfully, that was, if I can't record, there's a problem. Our revenue is truly affected. And so are the families that count on me to record, meaning my employees. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I made that choice for everybody listening, just so you know why. But that being said, I didn't want to do that. But now look, we did it, and it's over 250 episodes in. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't want to do anything, I agree with you. But if you do and you feel that you're, God or whomever, whatever you believe in is pulling you towards that direction, maybe listen a little.
It's interesting because usually the reluctance that people have is their own insecurity about wanting to get on the camera, wanting to get on the mic, not feeling like they know enough. For you just didn't even really seem that interested in it. So it's kind of funny that
It was
it's
silly to
what you
me.
ended up doing. I mean,
It was silly. And I'll tell you the transition though. Every step of the way, you realize that, like, in all the stories that I said, when I say God was pulling me, like, I would get this feedback and stuff, and it wasn't an ego thing. It was like I was actually helping people, and I didn't know that you could help people through sharing your story. I didn't know that you could help people by that shared comment. Like, I was completely naive and stupid when it came to that side of things. I didn't understand it. So I'll give you one quick example. My first book was very elementary. I think it's still a great book, but I mean, it wasn't like one of the chapters I had was on compound interest. I didn't really realize that people didn't know what that was, and that, like, you can know what it is, but sometimes somebody explaining it one way versus another can change your life.
yeah.
I didn't invent compound interest, but for whatever reason, a lot of people like that chapter, and it finally made sense to them. And so there might be thousands of books on that, but mine reached some people.
Yeah, that is really cool. And look, a lot of the stuff that's said, I mean, if you look at even like say the personal development niche as an example, a lot of the stuff that the current day gurus are talking about, the ideas aren't new. They're just framed in a different way. It's been said 100 times, but you never know when the way you say it or who you say it or the timing that you say it to somebody else, where they're going to hear it and it's going to make a connection. And I'll tell you a funny parallel with my podcast. So I've been a digital marketer for going on 20 years. And one of the things for me throughout the process is I was largely solitary. I have partners, but and joint venture partners and stuff like that, but they're all over the world, and we're like Skype friends right now, WhatsApp,
Yeah.
and we would get together a couple times a year at a conference, but that's really it, right? So it's kind of isolating. And one of the things for me is I really wanted to start a podcast because I felt as though there's so many other people that once you start to talk to them that have the same exact feelings. they're struggling. They don't know. Every entrepreneur they see on TV, social media, whatever, is just absolutely killing it. It's
Yeah.
effortless. They're living the life of their dreams. They never had a bad day. Then you start to talk to people and you realize, wait a minute, almost every single person had major setbacks along the way. It wasn't nearly that clean. So I said, we got to shed light on this. We got to let other people know that you're not alone, that everybody goes through it, and that there's other people here that want to support you, that want to say, keep going. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so that was really, really one of the things for it, because I do think that connecting with people, right, through that voice is super important. And you just never know how many people you're going to reach, or what
Mhm.
message you're going to have said. And to me, that's fascinating, and I think that
Yeah.
is sort of demonstrates the real power of it. So what impact has this all had on your life? Like, you went from this high powered finance career, and then you transitioned into this sort of reluctantly, but obviously things have changed, and obviously something's pulling you that way.
Mhm.
So what's that been like?
Well, the impact is the reason why I ultimately made the decision to change. I found in my finance career, which I really enjoyed, the way, at least the way that I was doing it, the way you make more money is to trade up for wealthier clients. So you talk to less people over time and you kind of go inward. You become a little bit more insular. Like that's the nature of the money game at certain levels, right? Like the ultimate goal would be to have a certain type of clientele, different things. So when I started going outward and I started doing exactly what you're talking about, and when I give some of these numbers, I do not recommend this for anyone else that's listening. If you have a podcast, if you want to be a podcaster, what I'm saying, this is definitely a do as I say, not as I do moment. I promise you, and you will thank me, because my numbers are just different. And so, I would do, like in the early days, upward a 70 episode week was normal. Like that was normal. And my records,
70 episodes in 1 week?
91 is my record for a week. And now to this day, this year I'll do between 1,500 and 2,000 interviews, and I host 8 different shows, and I do show. But when I say these things, that's 9 years of like, this is what I do. And that was a lot. That was very painful to build up the endurance to be able to do that, and to treat every audience and every guest the same, and to put them on a pedestal and do what you do to bring up your energy to that level for that long. And I'm still doing it, but now I say I'm a little bit slacking. I'll do 40 to 50 interviews next week, not 70. So I'm slacking. But my reason behind that, though, and the reason why, and this is, I only bring this up for consideration for why content creators should do what they do if they feel they have a message, is it comes out to deciding what and how you want to use your platform. Is it to feature people? Is it to entertain? Is it to teach? Is it a combination of all of those? Is it evolving? Do you not know what you want to do yet, but you still want to start? Like everybody's going to start kind of at a different level, with a different like mindset, with a different thought process. But one thing I'll say specifically about podcasting is it's a marathon. Like,
Yeah.
so, and because it's a marathon, what I like to tell people is that you can only, like, if you're running a marathon, if you're not thinking about the end, like nobody starts a marathon and doesn't think about finishing it or getting to the end. So in your mind, if you're starting something, think about what that end looks like for you and start planning for that now. Even if you don't have the concept, is your end that you want to be a full-time podcaster? Is your end that you want to help people? Define that. What does that look like? Is your end you want to do one season and that's it? And you want to do 50 episodes and that's going to be the length of your podcasting career. And that's fine. Like what is your end goal, and understand that in the beginning. Because if you do that, you're just going to have a better experience, and your audience is going to have a better experience, and you're going to have a better outcome overall, and you're going to be closer to reaching whatever your goal is. And you'll be able to then start thinking of it more like a business and not just a hobby.
Yeah, I like that advice, and I believe sort of like the twins of getting started are, have your sort of goal in mind, and also have your purpose, right? Because if you know why you're doing it, when you have those times that it feels like a slog, and it's you like you said, I mean, look, I know what it's like to interview, and I know what it's like to have to raise your energy levels. So to do the amount that you've done in that compressed amount of time is really impressive. It's difficult, not just to physically be on camera or mic with somebody for a while, but to do that at the same energy level every
Mm-hmm.
time, same amount of enthusiasm. It's easy to underestimate how draining it is,
Mm-hmm.
but even if you love it, it still is draining. It requires a lot of energy, focus, attention, all these other things. And so I think if you think in your mind in advance, like what your goals are and also why you're doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose? Like you mentioned, what are you trying to entertain, inspire, connect with people? Like whatever it is that you're trying to do, those are the things you need to hold in your mind on a daily basis, so that way it you're able to zoom out and see the big picture if you're in a micro situation that isn't pleasant or it's
Yeah.
difficult, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's great advice. But I got to ask you this: so you've interviewed over 6,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, so what did you learn? I mean, are there takeaways? Is there something that, because I've thought I had a pretty aggressive interview schedule, but yours
Yeah.
buries mine. So I got to know what kind of takeaways and what you feel about that.
Well, and one caveat to that too is so everybody knows that I do this full time. And so,
Yeah.
and there's a staff, a little over 30 of us. I'm not by myself. Like there's a team, there's a culture around this. And that wasn't the original vision. That was, building it brick by brick. I'll say that as a caveat because I don't want anybody out there cause it's not a sprint. So you're not saying you said this, by the way, but this is for the audience. Like
Yeah.
if you're recording one episode a week, that's amazing. I'd rather you record one episode a week and be consistent with that for the next 10 years than to do 100 in the next month and then quit. So I'll just throw that
Yeah.
out there. Then I'll answer your question, of course.
Smart.
But in terms of learning, what the learning side, it goes every single day. I'm learning something new, and I think that's where I think I'm a little uniquely wired for this. Like I love learning, and I've always wanted to get to the primary source as much as possible. And the primary source in today are the people that are living and creating and doing the businesses themselves. So I'm a big fan of that. And I'll tell you what ends up happening is in one of our models is I do a lot of conferences, a lot of big conferences, things like that. And what I found for myself, and I think for our audience, is that I'm invited to these really, I'll give you an example. I just covered the Milken conference. I think it's $40,000 for a ticket to that conference. I don't mean as a sponsor, I mean just to attend.
Yeah.
So the people that I'm interviewing there, I'll probably do between I think 75 to 100 interviews before that series is all set. These are people that you're not going to necessarily, I wouldn't have, where I grew up at in Michigan, and I wouldn't have had access to these people. I wouldn't have had access to this information. I also, these aren't people that are necessarily media hungry. They're not necessarily looking to be on camera. Not saying that's a bad thing, but they don't really. So the fact that they trust me and our platform with their story and with their content's a big deal. So my learning experience has been unique, but then also my show is I like to think of it almost like over the shoulder learning. So I'm really taking the audience, even if I know something or I know a piece of information, if I think it's interesting, I'm putting myself in my audience's shoes as an active learner at all times. And so because I want them to have the same experience that I get to do and the same benefit that I get as a host, I want my audience to have, which is learning and pulling out that content that they can benefit from and that I benefit from. So sometimes people are like, oh, I wish I had this, that. Like, listen to the show. You get the same exact thing. Like, you're good. It's okay.
Yeah, I actually love that approach, and I believe in it, wholeheartedly. It's, first off, you obviously want your guest to be able to be the one who's providing the advice, but also, when we're sort of in it together, we're all learning at the same time, and that interestingly, I'll tell you another funny story. So, when I was ready to start my podcast, I knew I wanted to do it. I didn't have camera fear, mic fear, any of that stuff that a lot of people have. The issue for me was that I thought, geez, if I'm going to start a podcast about entrepreneurship, don't I have to have all the answers? I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm not close to the most successful entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
that's ever lived. So, and I wrestled with this, and I went back and forth, and I said, and then I went to bed one night, and I woke up the next day, and maybe this was the same sort of pull, right? I woke up the next day, and then this thought just shot through my head, said, I don't have to be an expert. I just have to share the journey. I have to be authentic. I have to be vulnerable. And share the good and the bad from my own
Mm,
journey, and then bring on other people. Let them share their stories. They can be the experts. That's fine.
mm,
I'm going to learn throughout the whole time. And to your point, one of the things I love the most about being able to talk to people, like bringing you on, is that I get to learn so much, and that's what makes the whole thing so exciting and fun, because we're not just shaking hands at a conference. Like,
mhm.
we're having a real conversation for 45 minutes or whatever. And so you really get to know people, and you get to get a lot of good details. And I have a little control because I get to ask the questions. So that's kind of cool too, right?
Yeah, and you're lucky, by the way, that you didn't have the camera shy or this or that. I was deathly afraid. Like I didn't my very first show, I didn't even use my real name.
I know you said
I
that.
didn't
That's
even
so
like
funny.
I'm not even like I was deathly afraid. I did over 1,500 episodes with no video. You turn on a
Wow.
video, you turn on a camera, and I didn't remember what my name was. So
Wow, that's
so
awesome.
I tell people that all the time. If you're scared, good. Me too. I still get
Yeah.
scared. I did a conference, Las Vegas Investor Conference. There's a bunch of stuff on our Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. You could see it all. But I did that event, and maybe the conference organizer doesn't appreciate me sharing this, but I will. It's fine. So they didn't tell me who any of the people were that I was even interviewing ahead of time. Like I didn't even know the first letter of the first name of the person that was coming on, and I'm in front of a live audience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
that's
audience.
pressure. That's pressure if you can't at least
The
that
order,
would
the
be
like everything else, and I'm supposed to carry these things. I think I did like 6 interviews or something like that. Didn't know the first, didn't know what industry they were in, didn't know. And you talk about prep. Go
yeah.
go perform. Like, hey, the monkey got to get up there and perform.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And I mean, part of it too is not just your own comfort level, but it's the fact that, you want them to be able to shine. And if you can't do any prep work, it's difficult to do that. So, you got that added
So
pressure
you
of
got to
feeling
make them
like,
feel comfortable. You have to be
yeah,
in their shoes. You got to make them feel at ease because ultimately you want them to have a great experience too, but then the audience too. So you get it. You're a host. You understand. You're like,
yeah,
go carry 4 hours. It's cool.
yeah, right. I mean, no doubt. That's crazy. So, all right. So, do you think, now that you're in publishing, podcasting, do you think that everybody should be looking to write a book and start a podcast, or are there certain characteristics or certain people that it's better suited for?
I think that everybody should be thinking about their personal brand. Really, like one of the big things that we do as it is on the branding agency side of things is I teach an accelerator, an 8-week accelerator, and then we do a bunch along the branding stuff, everything from celebrity level to entrepreneurs. So you name it, but it's more so being authentic and playing to your skill set. So if you're a great writer and you want to write a blog, it's okay. Do that. Like, but play to your skill set. If you're great at talking, if you're great at like whatever it is, play to that. And then over time, you can build from that. I'd rather somebody just have a newsletter if they don't want to write or do anything else and send out a weekly newsletter. It's fine. Like do something. And out of that newsletter, maybe you gain the confidence to do something else and then do something else. So do I think ultimately the goal should be to have a book and a podcast? I mean, if you want to monetize, yeah, like for sure. Like as soon as I had a book, then I was a paid speaker. Before I had a book, I was a paying speaker, paid to go do something when I was a financial advisor, right? And I'm the one paying for the meals. I'm the one paying for the marketing. I'm the one getting the butts in the seats, right? So when I had a book, though, it changed. Now I'm a paid speaker. So if monetizing is a thing, then I mean, you got to think about you versus everyone else. Sure, you're great, but I'm booking a speaker, and this person has a book. This person doesn't have a book. Who am I booking?
Yeah,
Yeah, this person has a podcast. This person doesn't have a podcast. Who am I booking? This person has a social media following that cares who they are. This person doesn't have any social media. Who am I booking? You're inviting, even let's go a step below that. Maybe you don't want to be a speaker. You even just want access to higher level rooms for private dinners, private events. Like some events you have to be approved to, right? Do you want to be approved even if you are paying? Like not all events you get into, even if you want to buy a ticket. So masterminds, other things like that, who you associate with, just the people that you even network with. If you're in you let's say your brand is growing and you are doing well, and now you find yourself in a mastermind and everybody has a book and everyone has a show and you're the person that doesn't have it, they're like, who invited this guy? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just you choosing where you want to be and what level you want to be. And it's okay if you don't want those other things. It's okay, but at least just make the choice like yourself on why. If you don't want to do those things, it's okay. But just know that you're the only one holding yourself back, because my first book, I spoke it into a recorder, transcribed, put it out there, boom. It
Wow.
was, and I leave it out there too. We're a full publishing company now, but if somebody goes on Amazon, types in Adam Torres books or something, you're gonna see one ugly duckling. The cover's terrible. The like graphics terrible. I could update it. We could do all the rest of the books we publish are beautiful, but at that point we didn't have a publishing company. And I was like, I'm not spending money on this and that. I don't care. Just put it out there, whatever. And people still buy that book, and the cover is horrible. It's got like a little crease in it. You can see where it wasn't, the graphic design's not right, and this and that. And I'm in this like cheesy picture, and it's horrible. The design, the content's still me and my story, so I stand by the content, but like the stuff that usually holds people back, like perfectionism, is like I'm the definition of look at it, I dare you. The first
Well, you know,
podcast, 300 episodes I did were not edited. The first 300 episodes, I literally recorded them on my phone and uploaded them. I don't even know if I could call it a podcast. I would call it recorded phone calls that were uploaded.
that's awesome. But you know, the power of that, and I think this is the part that's lost. I know you're being very lighthearted about this, but there's a really important lesson here for everybody, and that is if you just start doing something, no matter how terrible you are at it at first, that's the way you get better. You
Yeah.
can learn and you can have mentors and you can have coaching programs, you can do all these other things, and they all help, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the only way you're going to get better at the thing that you're trying to do is to do it. I
Yeah.
don't know a person that got on a bike when they were a kid the first time and rode down the street
Mhm.
popping wheelies.
Yeah.
I know most of the kids I know went 2 feet, fell over, skinned their knee, got up and tried it again. And you
Hmm.
do it again and do it again and do it again. You keep getting better. And to your early point, I don't even want to look at my early podcast episodes, but
Oh, scary.
like you, same idea. I still publish them because I said, you know, it's part of the process. So why not share all of that? Why
Yeah.
hide everything and pretend everything's perfect and that it was always as good as it was? That's not doing anybody a service, because the
Yeah.
reality of it is, if it comes from a place of authenticity, there shouldn't be any fear or shame in trying to share all the pieces of it, right? We all
Hmm.
are in an evolutionary like process with the stuff that we do. And so it's great when you can kind of see people's origin story, or you know, the
Yeah.
humble beginnings from the stuff that they were doing. So I love that. All right, so here's a question for you. Let's say that I'm a coach or a content creator, whatever, and I want to do a podcast or a book, but I only
Hmm.
have time to do one first. Where should I start?
You should start with the podcast, and on the podcast, you should announce that you have a book upcoming, and then you become the author of the upcoming book. You're already an author. Get a cover created and start talking about it on your show. And when you start putting things out there into the universe, you'll be surprised. You'll wake up one day and you'll have a freaking book and be like, how'd this happen? You don't even realize you're writing it. But the more you talk about it, so then you get two birds with one stone. Like done.
Yeah, I do like the idea of sort of the self-fulfilling prophecy of, then if you already are putting it out there,
Hmm.
there's sort of this magnetism that then pulls
Yeah.
it into reality because you don't have a choice.
Yeah,
You've
but and
said,
and then and then the hidden part here to that, that's just the how to. If you do that, that's going to happen. But the benefit is now you have an audience that might actually care that you have a book coming out.
yeah,
Most people, they spend and I'll say this, I'll be upfront. When somebody comes to us and they talk about like publishing a book, and we're a hybrid publisher. For those that don't know what that means, it means you pay us, you own the book, and you get to, and we do the marketing, we do all the other stuff for you, or we just do the editing, we make it look really good for you, and it's professionally published, like whatever. So we're a hybrid publisher, is what it's called, and some books we own and that we publish under our own brand as well, like our anthology series. The first thing I ask people is, do they have an audience? Like, what do they have? What kind of pre-work have they done? And so if they tell me they have nothing, I said, well, are you really, like, what's your marketing budget? Do you just want to get the book done and have, and they don't like when I say this part, an expensive paperweight that nobody's going to read? And they don't usually like that part. And I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be selling you into this and, into, spending 20, 30 grand with us, but like, I'm not going to let you walk away with an expensive paperweight. Like, it just does it, unless this is just something legacy and you want to, like, for your kids and you want to like print it. There are use cases for that, and you just want to hand them out. That's fine if you want to hand them out. But if you're handing them out, that's not a paperweight. You're giving them out. It's out there into the world. Like, nobody has a good feeling when, you spend all this time, all this money in a book, and then nobody reads it. Like, that doesn't feel good. I don't care what anybody says. So, my that's always my first discussion. And so that's why when I think about the podcast side, I normally will steer people there first, and I'll tell them, well, if you don't have an audience, if you don't want us, do you like how have you considered building one if that's what you want? Because you probably have some ideas you want the world to hear if you're going to write a book anyway, assuming it's not just for legacy. So let's take that one off the table and say it's not for legacy. If it's for legacy, I get it. That's a different ball game. But if it's where you have some ideas and or a story that you actually want to share that you feel are like can help some other people, then you got to start thinking about like how you build an audience, why you build it, how you target them. And podcast is just the easiest. It's just the easiest way to do it. Like, and that's also how you build a community around your book, which is going to make sure it has long-term legs. And it's not just something that, okay, you got bestseller, you did this, the marketing money ran out, or you're done with it, you're on to writing the next one. Okay, but does anybody remember the last one? Probably not.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that you're transparent about that because it's important to be realistic about things. Same thing with podcasting, right? Like you said, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So to that point, if you're writing a book, you're doing a podcast, we know these are long-term sort of endeavors.
Yep.
And we know just like in life, there's going to be ups and downs along those journeys.
Yeah.
What advice do you have, since you have so much experience with this, both personally, but also helping other people do it?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people during those times of struggle?
Well, I find that the struggle that people are normally having is usually based on just not really being educated on what they're actually doing. So I'll give you one quick example, and for some people that are listening, it's probably going to be like mind blown. If somebody listens to your episode, let's say you got 50 downloads. That's 50, and let's say that you're doing an average of a half an hour episode, let's just say. That's 50 people that gave you a half an hour of their time. That's equivalent to doing a keynote in front of 50 people. That is a success. That's huge. They spent that 30 minutes with you, those 50 people. They spent that instead of watching Netflix or Amazon Prime or something with that might have had a budget that was, $500,000 for that episode. But those 50 people spent that time with you. You did a 50, that's equivalent to doing a keynote. Let's say that you have an Instagram post and 1,000 people like it. That'd be successful depending on the size of your platform. People will be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I went viral, whatever. Like, how vested were those 1,000 people? It might have taken them a millisecond to actually hit the like button. So which one is of more value? In my opinion, I would say if you're building a community and audience, if you want to have a connection with the people on the other side, if you want to monetize, a lot of different ways you could slice that one. All of a sudden your 50 people sound a lot more valuable. And now if you think about that 50 people, so what happens when you get to 100? If you understand and you respect that 100 people, that's equivalent to you doing a keynote in front of 100 people. I find that a lot of people will have a different expectation and they'll understand that they're actually way more successful than they thought already. And they just don't even know it because they're comparing it to things that's not apples to apples. It's completely different things. So if you look at it from that standpoint, and you actually start educating yourself, and you also start educating yourself on the industry. So I had people all the time. I had a host that I was on this show yesterday, and he told me, He said, Adam, I know I'm a little late to the game and podcasting this and that. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm sorry. This is rude. And I'll tell you up front, I'm sorry. This is rude, but I can't let that one stand. I said, there's, over 150 million YouTube channels. There's less than 4 million podcasts, and all those aren't even active. We're literally in year one, maybe two of YouTube. If you knew YouTube was going to
Yeah.
be where it's at now, like in year two, would you have done a video, at least one video a week? I know I would have,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now.
You're
but
right.
I can 100% tell you that I can't tell you the time limit, but I can tell you whether it's 10 years, whether it's 20 years, whether it's 30, whatever, there's going to be 100 million plus podcasts, period.
Yeah.
And then it's going to look like, and there's going to be people that launch shows then when there's 100 million plus podcasts, and they're still going to be successful. So for you thinking that there's a whole whopping 4 million, like, get out of here. So it's really just educating yourself on what you're doing. Like if people did that piece of it, like just those little two tips that I gave right there, the next time someone says they want to start a podcast but it's too saturated or this or that, I hope they laugh at themselves if they listen to this. Because I laugh at clients when they tell me that. I had a financial advisor. I want to start a podcast, but there's too many financial advising podcasts. I busted out laughing. I'm like, this is why I'm not even on sales calls. Hold on. Let me bring somebody else on to explain this to you. I'm sorry. I was just like, you were a referral. You're a friend. Like I can't do it. We're not going to close
That's
this deal because I'm laughing at you right now. And I'm sorry. I know it's rude.
That's awesome, though. Yeah, no, it's so true. It's amazing to me that people will look at something and say that, yet every day you'll see somebody break through, even on YouTube. Right?
Yeah,
It's a
that's true too.
saturated platform, but there's still new YouTubers that come about and
Absolutely. It's a
still
great
build
point.
big channels. If you have a voice,
Yep.
if you have a message, if you have, a purpose for what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and there's an audience for that, then you can build it. It doesn't matter.
It's a
So I
great point,
think,
Brett. I love that you said that. Because I'm not dogging YouTube. I love YouTube. I'm not even
yeah,
dogging that. I'm just saying I'm laughing. But you're completely right. I agree.
yeah, no, because it is crazy, but I understand why people think that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you in the sense that it's not even close. I mean, podcasting, the other thing is, just a year ago, you didn't have the tools you had. Like,
Yep.
so it was a lot more manual. Now is literally the best time to get in because the tools make it so easy to do it,
Yeah.
relatively speaking. And it's this huge growing thing. I mean, every celebrity in the world's trying to jump on a podcast now because
Mm-hmm.
and you're seeing podcasts referenced on news channels
Yep.
in ways that they never were. You're seeing podcasters being brought onto national shows for things,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's definitely you can feel it rising. And so anybody who's thinking about it should 100% take the plunge and get going with it. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say somebody wants to do it. Let's say they're ready to start their book, they're ready to start their podcast. Do you have recommendations for what first steps they should take?
Well, I would say the first thing they should do is they should really think about what their end goal is. So let's just assume that they did some of the self work. They know what their end goal is, or maybe they don't know what their end goal is, but they know that they're missing some pieces. Like they know that they don't know what they need to know to make an informed decision. Then I would think about like, budget. Like, what are you thinking? Like, is this going to be something you do yourself? Is it something that you're going to hire somebody else for? And for clear communication for everybody listening in the beginning, I mean, I didn't put any money, even though we could have. I mean, I could have. I didn't put any money into it. My first show I launched, it was like 5-10 minutes on my phone, and do regret this, I didn't even pay for hosting. So like that was a big mistake. Like, so it wasn't like the this is a little technical, but the audience that I could have reached wasn't even being reached because I didn't pay for hosting, and I didn't know what I didn't know what I didn't know at that time. It's the beginning. But even then, we still built an audience. So even doing it wrong, we did better than in not doing anything. So then decide if you have a budget, like, and just think about like what your like intensity level is and what you're really doing. Are you committing resources? Are you not? If you're not committing resources, it's okay. Like, I'm not saying you have to hire a company like ours or someone else. Like you mentioned, Brett, there's a lot of tools out there now that are inexpensive. Like, go do that. If you are in the position to where you do want to work with companies or agencies and you don't maybe have some time to do some of those other things, then shop for some companies. Obviously, we'd like to compete for your business, but shop around, look for some companies, see what they do, and see if there's a right culture in that company for you to work with. And one thing I do like to say is when you're talking to podcasts versus other things, you want to make sure the culture of the company that you're working with it matches, because it's not like, and no offense to the marketing agency side of things, and we do marketing things and we have some select clients that we do that work for, but when you're doing this, it's a little bit of an intimate relationship from the standpoint of you're creating content. You're not hiring somebody to come into your business, shoot some pretty pictures, and then all of a sudden create a campaign, and like being is different. Like, you're part of the process. So if you don't like the people that you're talking to, no offense to outsourcing or anything else like that, or like hiring and doing it on the cheap, it's okay. But if you don't like, or you don't have a chemistry with the person you're talking to, your output just can't be what it's supposed to be. Like, it's a creative process. You're actually creating something. It's a very different thing than hiring somebody to do marketing or SEO. If you're thinking about it the same way as SEO, then that's a very hands-off, like updated, like, but some people try to hire agencies the same way they hired their SEO guy. It's not going to be the same. Like, you want to look at expertise, you want to look at shows that they've put out in the past, you want to look at their platform, like, do they have additional distribution for you outside of the normal channels? Do they have a website that the good thing on what I will state for ourselves is, whenever anybody asks what we do or how we do it, I say it's all public. You want to see our clients? Go on missionmatters.com. Listen to some shows. If you like the shows, then guess what? We might be a good fit. If you don't like the shows, well, that's what we do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think that's that's obviously important advice. I mean, I do think you want alignment
Yeah.
because, as you said, it is more intimate and it is higher touch.
Yeah.
And so if you're not hiring someone to mow your lawn, right? So you got to get that relationship right, where
Mm-hmm.
you feel like there's synergy and that you're aligned in your vision and goals
Mm-hmm.
with it. So
Yeah.
that's great advice. Appreciate you sharing that. All right, where can people find you?
Yeah.
Find your product, services, and connect with you?
I just say, obviously we have websites, things like that, but I'm speaking of being one-on-one and more personal. I just say, if you got a show you want to talk about or anything like that, just shoot me a DM. Like, ask Adam Torres on Instagram. Super easy to find. There's obviously a link on that Instagram as well, to a link tree, and it's going to have everything else. So if you wanted to see books we've done, if you want to see a ton of free stuff, we have free, like, how to launch a show, how to write a book, like all that. I believe we give out more free content than any company of our size on the planet. If you don't believe me, look at that Linktree link and you will see. And we've been doing this for years and years. So our newsletter, everything else, like, there's so much free stuff on there. But if you have a specific show and or book, like, just shoot me a DM. Ask Adam Torres on Instagram.
Awesome. Thanks for that. All right, I have one last question I've got to ask
Yep.
because I'm always curious to know what everyone's going to say. And that's, what's your number one tip for success as a business owner or an entrepreneur?
I'm a big fan of consistency. Like, I'm just a big fan of consistency. I think that's why podcast matches my, like, thing is consistency. And then my caveat to consistency is measure and reassess. Because if you're consistently doing something that's not getting you results, it doesn't mean that your consistency is working in your favor. Like,
Yeah,
so
and,
measure and
and
reassess. That's it.
that's awesome. Yeah, measure, reassess, and adapt. Right. I mean,
Yep.
I love that advice because I feel exactly the same way. I think you get something set up and then you have to be consistent enough for it to work.
Yeah.
I see so many people in this instant gratification age
Mm,
start something, they do all the work to get it set up, and then
mm,
if it doesn't get instant results, they want to jump onto something else. It's like, no, 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 you've got it set.
yeah.
Now just keep doing it, but pay attention to the results you're getting and
Mm,
make adjustments as needed so you get closer to your target, as opposed to just put your head in the sand and keep going.
yeah.
And so it is that balance, but I think that's like the perfect advice. So again, appreciate that. And with that, it's just about time to wrap things up. I want to thank you again, Adam, so much for sharing all your insights and great tips with us. Connect with Adam and follow his content, tips, and advice on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as always, remember, no matter what you want from your business and your life, don't compromise, optimize.